Can you talk about what the holdup is, Mr. President?
I can't because it's the middle of negotiations still. But
have you been in touch with the parties again?
My team has been in touch with all the parties, in rooms with the parties, and I have not directly engaged yet because they're still talking.
And the directly involved, he was directly involved ahead of the September agreement being reached. Are you saying he's been directly involved this week?
So I could say this, he's been directly involved since before there was even a tentative agreement, right? So that has not stopped. The president has been kept abreast as to what is happening, and he has been directly involved because he understands how important it is to make sure that we do not have a rail shutdown, because as I laid out, it would have a really serious effect on American families.
Is there a date in the next week or so at which point you all have to elevate this if there isn't an agreement? Because again, there's going to be disruption for industries that rely on the rails.
We understand that there will be disruption. We have been very clear about that. Again, the president has been directly involved.
To that question, the White House does seem a lot more hands-off this time around, though, than you were before the last strike deadline. Smart Transportation Division President Jeremy Ferguson this morning said that there's been, quote, no real engagement yet at this point from the administration. Can you explain what's different this time around? You keep pointing to the fact that it's the best option is for the parties to resolve this themselves. Is that because you don't want Congress to get involved, or is that because you'd like these unions to resolve this amongst themselves without involvement from the administration?
Well, we have said, look, there's a tentative agreement, as you all know about, and we have said I just said the president has been directly involved.
And how the president's been involved, though, just given that one of the union presidents is saying he hasn't seen any real engagement.
I mean, you're
so
talking
far,
about.
You've only told us that he's been briefed, but you haven't given us.
No, I
anything
just said
else.
he's been direct. I said this is the third time I'm saying he's been directly involved. You're talking about one union president. There are 12, so you're talking.
Making calls to other
You're talking
unions,
about
or?
one. I said I'm not going to provide any details at this time. The administration, more broadly, has been also in touch with parties. Yes, the president has been clearly. He's been he's been briefed, but he has actually been directly involved. Not going to get into more details.
The president a couple months ago called the tentative agreement a big win, and it wasn't just the fact that a strike at the time was averted. He was talking about the substance of the agreement. So now that the rank and file, the workers in 4 of the unions have rejected that agreement, is the president pulling back on his endorsement, or does he still think that this tentative agreement should be implemented?
Well, here's what we're saying is that it averted a horrible downturn in our economy by that tentative agreement. It was a big deal. The president is directly involved, as I have said. Secretary Walsh has been involved, as I've said, and not just now, but before the tentative agreement. And so, look, it was an important. The tentative agreement was indeed important, again, because it stopped. It stopped a horrible potential.
Part of the White House's messaging, part of the industry's messaging, is the majority of the unions involved have actually ratified the contract.
Yeah.
So I guess the question is, if you're urging both sides to come to the table, the companies don't have a particular incentive to do so. Are you suggesting that the president would not sign a bill that would impose the terms of the tentative agreement on those 4 unions?
Look, I'm not going to get into hypotheticals from here. What I'm saying is we've been very clear that both sides need to come together to reach a resolution.
There was almost a celebration in the Rose Garden 2 months ago with the president, with these labor leaders, with management. Is the president surprised to see that so many of these, obviously not all of them, but 4 out of the 12 of these unions have actually rejected a deal which he tried to sell as a strong deal for labor for these workers
So
involved?
I want to be very clear here. The tentative agreement that we saw in September actually helped to prevent an immediate disruption to the economy. So that was important, that we were able to prevent that, again, to our economy. So that was an important moment as well. Look, we're going to be steadfast in saying that all parties need to come together. They need to come together in a good faith, and we have to prevent a rail shutdown.